You. Boy D47 on the grind all day, revisiting as much rugby league information as possible. Right now, the 1951 wooden spoon in Australian Rugby League, going to North Sydney again for the third time in 4 seasons. And as per always, so you're not missing any essential rugby league information, watching this video all the way through to the end. So, I've said previously, if you scroll through this playlist, the Wooden Spoons playlist, you'll find all the other wooden spooners, and I've said that in the 1940s there were a whole ton of them that were topsy-turvy, twisted and bended. Sequence of events to work out those wooden spoons. But then I also said in 1949 East got the spoon and 1950 North's got it. And those two were cut and dry cases. Those two teams were always getting the spoon because they hardly won a game all year. So even though North's got it again in 1951, they nearly avoided it. It took to the very last game of the season to find out the wooden spoon. Like when North eventually played their round 18 game, but like I said, going for it one step at a time until we get to that. Just like in 1948, again, if you go through this playlist, you'll find that video. I said in the 1948 season, in the last round 18, North had lost to Manly 13-12 and ended up with the wooden spoon with that last round loss. Well, they did the same thing again. Believe it or not, in 1951. So, we always go through the wooden spoon team's stats first of all. So North's stats for 1951, played 18 games, winning 5 and losing 13. So slightly better than 1950, where they won only 3 and lost 15. But similarly to 1950, they didn't win consecutive games at any point in the season. And the games that they did win were against other teams that also didn't make the finals. But at least it was a bit better than 1950. And they scored 220 points in attack and conceded 328, so for and against minus 108 for the season, which is poor, but what you do expect from the wooden spoon. The top try scorer, quite impressive I think, his name was Jack McLean, and he picked up 12 tries for North in 1951, so impressive stuff, a player getting into the double digits for season tries, despite the fact that they did get the wooden spoon. And another Jack, this time Jack O'Connell, the leading point scorer, no tries and just 21 goals for a measly 42 points for the season. But you do expect the stats to not be too crash hot when it is the wooden spooner. So that's pretty much like standard for the wooden spoon. But what isn't standard is the fact that like North's got a bit of a late season run of form happening and it looked like they were going to avoid the wooden spoon. So we'll just get there one step at a time. I said that they'd won 5 games in 1951, so those games that they did win, in round 3 they'd beaten Newtown 14-7, in round 5 they'd beaten Canterbury 14 points to 6, in round 9 they'd beaten Balmain 22-10, and in round 15 they'd beaten Parramatta 22-13, so they're getting a win every now and then in round 17, the second last game of the season, they pulled off an excellent win and beat Eastern Suburbs 24-18, and they were fortunate too, because also in round 17, 1951, Balmain had just lost to Parramatta 20 points to 10. So what ended up happening then was after round 17, 1951, with one single round left, with North's win, they'd gone up to 10 competition points, and with Balmain's loss, they were stuck on 10 competition points too. And we also had Newtown, believe it or not, in wooden spoon contention. So we had 3 teams on 10 competition points each going into the last round of the 1951 season. 3 teams at the bottom of the ladder, all a 1 in 3 chance of getting the wooden spoon. But Newtown were in a more fortunate position though, in a favourable position compared to North and Balmain, because North and Balmain had to play each other at Balmain's home ground, Leichhardt Oval, in the last round. So what that meant for Newtown was that once North and Balmain played each other, one of them had to lose that game, which would keep the loser of that game below Newtown, as long as Newtown did the right thing and won their game. And in 1951, round 18, last regular season round of the season, Newtown held up their end of the bargain and beat St George 16 points to 14 to go to 12 competition points. They were clear of the wooden spoon. So then, came down to the very last game of the season, just like in 1948 round 18, when North lost to Manly by a single point in 13-12 and picked up the wooden spoon. This time, they lost to Balmain 32 points to 7, a 25-point losing margin, their biggest losing margin for the year, save their absolute worst performance for the last game of the season. Yeah, and embarrassingly, picked up the wooden spoon that way, and Balmain avoiding the wooden spoon to the relief of their home fans at Leichhardt Oval. Very relieved home fans indeed. So obviously, that's North's most embarrassing moment. The fact that looked like they were going to avoid the wooden spoon and then produce their worst performance of the year to end up getting it. And the moment in the sun was obviously the round 17 win over East, which looked like it would give them the impetus to avoid the wooden spoon. But not to be. So there you go. Yet another crazy sequence of events to decide the 1951 wooden spoon. So at this point in time, North's got the wooden spoon in 1948, finished second last in 1949, the spoon in 1950 and the spoon in 1951, so 4 miserable years for them. But to their credit, the next year, 1952, they shot back up the competition ladder and actually made the finals in 1952. So great work by North to cast that misery behind them eventually. There you go, another insane version of events to understand and fully divulge and exhume the 1951 wooden spoon. North's eventually getting it with a last round loss to Balmain, unfortunately, just like they did in 1948 against Miami. Your boy, all day for real, DL47. Thank you so much for continued ongoing, pulverising, brutal support if you're still watching all the way to the very end, so you didn't miss any essential rugby league information. 1952 wooden spoon is Parramatta coming up next, D47.